Here and Now, the program featuring the news and interests of the African American community. Here's your host, Sandra Bookman.
Coming up, Samaritan Daytop Village, the nationally recognized human services organization changing lives for more than 60 years. Also ahead, the initiative providing much-needed support for grandparents now raising their grandchildren. Plus, Ntozake Shange's classic choreopoem for colored girls reimagined with music at Lincoln Center. And Act Black, the poster exhibit bringing early Black stage and screen productions back to life. That's all ahead on Here and Now. For anyone facing serious life challenges, Samaritan Daytop Village is a place of hope and new beginnings. Its services have enriched the lives of thousands of New Yorkers for more than 6 decades. Here to tell us more are agency staffers Deirdre Rice-Reese, Assistant Vice President of Residential Treatment, and Clinical Director Toy C. Jackson. So nice to see both of you again.
Pleasure to be here.
You know, when you say you've been around for 60 years, that means you must be doing something right.
That's right.
Right? So if you will, because really, I think the village's umbrella is quite large. So if you could just summarize for us the kind of human services work that you guys do.
Absolutely. So when Samaritan started, it was a substance use disorder or addiction services agency as a whole. That was all that they did. That was the primary focus. Men and women that needed substance use disorder treatment would come into Samaritan. As it grew, and it's grown exponentially over the years, it went from a mom and pop not 15 years ago to, you know, a multi-million-dollar huge agency. We have substance use disorder services, mental health services, we have medication-assisted treatments, we have transitional housing, which is AKA shelters, we have permanent supportive housing, we have a whole arm of supports for veterans, for women in particular, women, young mothers, just really wrapping our arms around all of the social determinants of health. So Samaritan does a little bit of everything as it relates to behavioral health.
Yeah.
We have a primary care clinic, we have partners that do the medical work, we have psychiatrists and psychologists and therapists on deck, we have, you know, our clinical team just really works at its evidence-based practices, so we wrapped our arms around everything that happens.
Everybody that finds themselves in need.
And that's right.
On the
Food
spectrum
insecure. We do lots of outreach.
It might have been better if I had asked you, what don't you do, right? And I
we don't do surgery.
Okay, no surgery, no surgery. And Toy, I want to bring you into the conversation. Okay, and I have to digress a little bit because we're talking to Sweet Tea, one of the first successful female hip hop artists out of Queens.
Yes, absolutely.
So glad to have you with us today. And you're a licensed social worker, right? You have been working with Samaritan 19 years, right? Yes. Why is this work important? And look, the interesting thing is you talked to us when you talked about your career, you were talking about, you know, how community was important in regards to that. But I gotta believe that doing this is just another way of serving the community.
Yes, it is. When I got into the field years ago, like I knew I wanted to help people, and I knew that once I started working in drug treatment, I was like, this is where I would like to serve. And I went to school, I got my KSAC, and then just recently I got my license. So I'm a licensed master social worker, and so now I am, you know, I'm fully in.
And why is doing this work so important to you, to both of you?
I mean, I think growing up and seeing some of the things happening in the community, you know, growing up on Southside Queens, I understood it. Even though I was never in the grips of addiction, I understood what was going on. I saw it, you know, it was even in my family. So, you know, me coming in to say, you know, I want to help and I want to work in this way was like, it was it was what I wanted to do.
Yeah, and it's satisfying.
Yes, it is. I don't get up any day and say I don't want to go to work.
Oh, I do.
Yeah, and that's real.
On occasion.
Like, I'm never.
On occasion.
I mean, you know, sometimes you don't feel good. You just don't want to.
Yeah.
But it's not because I hate my job.
Yeah, you love it.
Yes.
In fact, and I see your hands over here, Deirdre.
For me, it's lived experience, right? So I am a person in long-term recovery, 36 years. I'm proudly an Air Force veteran, so giving that extra level of service, being able to continue to serve in a way that touches lives, men, women in particular. Of course, we're in Women's History Month, so being able to celebrate the accomplishments of women and getting them through to those first few months of recovery until long-term recovery, building recovery capital.
So you know it's possible because you have lived it.
Lived experience, that's
So,
what.
for both of you, how do folks get, are they referred to your program? Do they walk in and out, ask for help? How does that happen?
Both.
Yes, both. So, you know, we have people that call and they walk in, they need help. There are people that are mandated by the courts. So we do interviews from the prison system, and you know, they get to come in that way. You know, we get a plethora of different people. We got husbands dragging wives in, wives dragging husbands in,
mothers dragging children, children, adult children.
To say, hey, you know, you have to do this.
And I know you guys, 60 facilities throughout New York City, Long Island, and the Lower Hudson Valley. So you guys are covering the area.
Right. So when we talk about facilities, so we have some treatment facilities, 12 residential. People live with us for 8, 10, 12 months. Others are transitional housing, which is contracted with New York City Department of
Yeah, but it falls under your
Services.
umbrella.
Falls under our umbrella. We have outpatient services, and so it just depends on what area you're in, but we're probably somewhere nearby.
Yeah. And how is this paid for? Is there a cost to participants, or?
It just depends, right? So depending on the need, we would address whether you have means and can pay. If you're indigent, we would ask Medicaid to afford it, to cover it. Human Resources Administration, or what they call HRA, Department of Social Services, room and board. So we access those benefits for you while you're in care or when you come to us.
So to make sure you get the care you need,
That's
you
right.
guys can figure out.
And if you have insurance, you know, we'll use your insurance. If you are able to self-pay, then you self-pay. And we use a sliding scale.
Okay. You mentioned for me the women's, it is Women's History Month, March, and I know that you guys do a women's program.
Yes,
Talk to me a little bit about that and why it is important, you feel.
So every year we just celebrate the women. We use JCal. So, and we go down to JPAC Performing Arts Center, and we have all the women come down from all the different residential facilities. Also, some people from the outpatient transitional housing, and we cannot forget the Woodside Senior Center women. They come, they show out every year, and we just do an event for them. They have shirts. Oh, by the way, we have.
We bought one for
you.
Oh, you're so sweet.
Embracing the theme.
And it really comes down to why we celebrate women and encourage them and empower them. It's different for women coming into treatment in particular, right? Sometimes a real struggle. They have children.
Other responsibilities.
They're a caregiver for a parent or a spouse or a child. They, a plethora of reasons why they don't want to come into treatment. We try to help them access services, even if they have to bring a toddler with them, even if they have to be in treatment and have visits. We're preparing them for returning back to their lives.
And if you're trying to take care of other people, we always tell women especially, it is even more important for you to take care of yourself.
Put the mask on first before you attempt to help others, like the airline says. And women have different strengths and weaknesses, and we approach support differently. having a sisterhood that helps them, see their way to, the light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah, to navigate their own recovery.
Exactly. So we have gender-specific programming as well as co-ed programming.
All right.
Yeah.
If I send folks to SamaritanVillage.org, they can find a list of the services that you offer.
Yep. Admissions and referrals, any points of contact. You can actually do right online. You could actually set up an appointment for a screening admission. So yeah, you can easily get to us on Samaritan Village.
Deirdre, Toy, thank you so much for sitting down with us today and also for doing this important work. Really, really important, especially these days with all of the challenges people are facing, whether it's economic or otherwise. Folks need help.
As women, we are proud to be here with you, and thank you so much for what you've done in the community for so many years. WABC overall, and here and now.
You're aging me. I'm
well,
kidding.
98,
That's
but you
my
don't look
issue,
it.
not yours.
But you don't look it.
Thank you both. You can come back anytime.
It was amazing. Thank you so much.
We'll be right back. More than 2 million grandparents in the U.S. are now raising their grandchildren. That, according to the American Society on Aging. Older adults stepping into unexpected parenting face some unique challenges. The Grandparents Raising Grandchildren initiative is helping tackle some of those issues, including providing emotional support, food distribution, and educational resources. Here to tell us more is the Executive Director of Care Spark Community Connections, Keith DaCosta, and grandparent participant, Jacqueline Williams. Thank you both for being with us this afternoon.
Thank you for having us.
So I'm going to ask you, Mr. DaCosta, I know that this program, this initiative, falls under the sort of the Care Spark umbrella, right?
Correct.
So why don't you tell us first what Care Spark is?
Care Spark is a nonprofit organization based in Maplewood, New Jersey, and our mission is to advance health equity, improve community health outcomes and public health, focus on Black and brown communities throughout the state of New Jersey.
So you got a long list of accomplishments. This program is one of your newer ones. Right? Just a few months now, you had a pilot program going on, right?
Yes, we started a pilot program in 2002, and then we relaunched the program this past December 2025.
Why is this? I mean, I think you told me the number, 2.5 million people in the country.
Yes.
Grandparents taking care of their grandkids.
Correct.
What's going on?
Well, it's a number of circumstances. Grandchildren are placed in the care of grandparents for a number of different reasons. It could be death, mental health issues with the parents, biological parents. It could be incarceration. It could be substance abuse. It could be a multiple of issues where we find our grandparents once again raising children. And in many other cases, they're raising children for a third time because these are great grandparents as well, raising children. So grandparents are stepping in and filling that void and keeping their families together. Yeah. That is the most important piece, is keeping them together. And along the way, they are saving this country millions, if not billions of dollars by having the kids in their care and not in foster care.
And I want to bring you into the conversation, Jacqueline. Now tell me, so you have 11 children of your own.
I'm a mother of 11.
And you have 11 grandchildren total.
Yes.
And you are now raising 3 of those grandchildren?
Yes.
Explain to us how it is that they came to be in your care full time.
Well, my daughter teenager in 2024 had an accident in a car and she passed away. So I took custody of her children because I wanted them to be raised together and correctly.
Yeah, you're doing what so many grandparents find them. We talked about challenges. You love them. I know you do. How difficult is it, though, to be able to provide the things that you would like to see them have and the opportunities?
Well, the program, which is Care Sparks, they have been helping me with resources. Resources when it comes to my special need children, my special need grandson. He's on the spectrum. And it also gives me a safe space so that I can express how I feel and then get some input in helping my family.
Yeah, look, you've raised 11 children, you definitely know what you're doing. But with the death
But it's changing a little bit now.
It is a different world. So do you find it much different than when you raised the first 11?
Yes, it's much different.
Harder? What's so different for you?
It's not so much harder, more of understanding more and using more, how you say that, more tactics to helping the children. You know, before, you know, I was a young mom.
Mm-hmm.
My first child, I was like 19, 18, so I was learning as I went.
Mm-hmm.
But now that I'm older, I'm in my 50s, there's more things out there to teach me how to go about certain things.
Yeah. And
a lot different than what I did as a younger parent.
Yeah, back in the day.
Yeah.
And that's one of the
more
things,
resources.
More resources. And that's
Yes.
one of the things CareSpark is able to do for folks like Jacqueline, right?
Correct, is to support our grandparents with resources.
And talk to me about when we say resources, some specifics.
Well, resources, we are partnering with numerous organizations, so it's not just CareSpark. Our approach is collaborative approach,
Yeah.
where we all come together. And so we provide workshops like lunch and learn workshops on a regular basis with our grandparents. We have different presenters. So we focus on self-care. One of the biggest focuses with the program is to really ensure that our grandparents understand the importance of caring for themselves. You can't care for no one if you don't care for yourself. So self-care is number one. And really addressing their mental health, addressing food security and food insecurity, and really addressing access to services, health screenings, how to navigate various systems effectively, and also raising children in a different environment. So we just did a session that recently through our program partner, Programs for Parents, and they partnered with Maternal Child Health, and we did a teen talk. So, you know, how you communicate with teens today is much different than even when I raised teenagers many years ago. So giving the grandparents and equipping them with the tools and the ability to navigate these complex systems, and also you're looking at the digital divide and all of these challenges that grandparents have to deal with today that they didn't have to deal with when they raised their children.
And one of the things we love about this story with you and the work that CareSparks does is that you know exactly what these families are going through because you watch your mother raise grandchildren.
Raise her grandchildren.
And then you raised your nephews.
Correct. I was inspired by my moms. My mother is currently 91 years of age. She's our queen and our matriarch of our family. And I was inspired by my mother. I was a teenager when the twins, my nephews, was first placed with us. They was born to my brother, teenage parents, and they couldn't care for them. So the twins was placed with us with little to nothing. My mother received a Medicaid card and a welfare check of $120 a month for 2 children. And so she was penalized because she was working, and there was very little resources. So seeing how my mother not just managed, we thrived. Our nephews now are adults, married, graduated from college, careers, and their whole life journey has been impacted by the love, support, and the resources that my mother provided for them. And eventually I end up doing the same thing with my nephews, and I adopted my youngest nephew, Dion. And it has been a wonderful experience. It's been a challenging experience.
It's a blessing, but a challenge. I see Jacqueline shaking her head over there. Without the help that you would have gotten through this program, any idea how you would have managed things?
No. This program was a lifeline for me. It helped me with so many things that I needed to understand and go to for my grandchildren.
And I'm assuming even you get a chance to meet some of the other people that are involved. That sort of, I guess, fellowship really can make a difference.
Yeah, and to see the same people that you're going through the same things that I'm going through, and get some answers or some suggestions, stuff like that. And it feels good to go there, to be able to express yourself.
And do you notice the difference with less stress, less worry, in how you are actually able to interact with?
It's better in raising the children because you don't be so aggravated all the time.
Yeah.
So I really enjoy it.
Yeah. And when you hear that, it makes you feel good about the work that you guys are doing.
It makes me feel fantastic knowing that my mother didn't have these type of programs to support her. And so to be able to provide support and understanding what that challenge is firsthand, because lived experience matters.
Yeah.
And creating programs that's not based just on statistics, but based on lived experience, and having participants share in the development and structuring of your program. So they don't just attend the program, they are part of shaping the program, and their feedback is how we continue to meet the changing needs of the grandparent raising grandchildren population.
Yes, the program, the Grandparents Raising Grandchildren Initiative. Now let me ask you a question. How can folks help you with making this program viable?
Well, the help is through financial support. We was able to get funding through an organization, foundation, the Grotto Fund for Older Adults, and through their funding and their support, and they funded the initial pilot. That funding has really made a difference in our ability to provide resources for this under-resourced population.
Yeah.
So we seek additional funding, additional support, in-kind support, volunteers. There are so many ways that people can support the Grandparent Raising Grandchildren Initiative.
If I send folks to caresparkcommunityconnections.org?
Yes. If you send them to us and they just send an inquiry that they would like to support us, volunteer, and we will reach back out and we will make that connection, and we will most certainly take that support and help strengthen this program.
It is really, really important, and you're right. Folks have been doing this for a long time. I am surprised at how large the number is, quite frankly.
Well, the number is extremely large, and as you stated, folks have been doing it a long time. That's part of the Black experience. Caring for family members and kinship care is, it predates slavery.
Yeah.
And so this has always been part of the experience. And you look at the Hispanic population, you look at the migrant population, families have always came together, and grandparents has always been that glue.
Yeah,
to hold everything together.
Hold everything together.
Yeah.
caresparkcommunityconnections.org. Keith, Jacqueline, thank you so much for sitting down with us this
Thank
afternoon.
you.
Thank you.
And we'll be right back. The vast majority of films that featured Black casts from the 1870s through the 1940s are considered lost forever. But a new exhibit is helping reclaim that important cultural history. It's called Act Black, Posters from Black American Stage and Screen. It features rare posters from that period that are now the only historical evidence of the work of many Black performers, playwrights, and producers. With us today is Esperanza Humphrey, Assistant Curator of Collections at Poster House in New York City. So nice to see you again.
So nice to see you again, too, and thank you for having me.
Last time you were here, you were a baby, and now you're an older baby.
I'm an older baby now.
Just kidding. You are extremely knowledgeable, and I'm so happy I'm getting a chance to talk to you about this show. So explain to everyone what the Act Black exhibition is.
Sure. So the Act Black exhibition captures this history of Black theater that figuratively and literally sets the stage for what becomes the most popular form of entertainment by the 20th century, by the early to mid 20th century, which is Black film. And then that second part of the exhibition captures the posters that showcase Black film. A lot of them are lost films, or at least a good majority of them are lost films. And so these posters, in some cases, are the only remnant of what that film or what those films, the story of those films.
And I guess I shouldn't be too surprised about them being lost, because look, there are a lot of films in the, films overall that were not preserved. Maybe they weren't stored properly. Maybe we didn't know enough about storing the film to fix them. There's been a lot of talk over the last few years about restoring some of the films that are really considered classics, right? So it's not surprising that films that were specifically targeted toward audiences of color were not necessarily, nobody was thinking about saving them, right?
Right, and the behind the scenes, it wasn't only black directors. The really big draw to the show is that these are all black casts for all black audiences. In some cases, they would be for segregated audiences, but you're right, they weren't often preserved because they were screened, people loved them, people had their opinions about them, and then you would kind of go on to the next film. And there are some beautiful stories about how some of them were uncovered, but in some cases, they just never were, but luckily the posters survive for a lot of these films.
And how is that? How is it that you do have the posters surviving?
Right, so it could be, it's a bunch of different reasons. We worked with some great lenders. Some lenders, they have a lineage with their family where their families collected them, or early in the 60s, their families kind of scouted these things before we really felt that they were culturally relevant to display in institutions. Poster House itself is a very young museum, but we collect these posters, and so we also found that the process of uncovering a lot of these posters was a bit challenging, but once you find it, it's like finding a gem. It's like finding something that just means so much, means the world, especially for these black audiences.
Yeah, it was worth the work.
Right.
And my understanding is that, you know, some people had mixed reactions to not only the films or the product, but the poster themselves. Because perhaps they had an issue with how black people were portrayed, correct? Talk to me a little bit, I mean, but it was in a variety of ways, right?
Right. So there's this history that we have to talk about when it comes to black stage and black screen, which is minstrelsy. And we also have to grapple with the fact that black actors did do blackface minstrelsy. It's a very dark history, but it's also a case in which black people are reclaiming something where when white people did blackface, they're putting on a caricature of blackness. In a lot of ways, like we see Williams and Walker, their show, Two Real Coons, depicts blackface minstrelsy, but they have complete ownership over their comedic act, their touring. There were these very safe circuits that were created so that black people and black performers could understand, we can book your gigs, we can make your schedules for you, and you know that it's within the black community. So there is a very dark history that we do have to tackle, but as we come out of that history and we really delve into those stereotypes that are explored throughout the show, we start to realize that black people did claim some type of ownership over the products.
Yeah, they, many of them, they had agency over what and how they were doing it, and were clear on why they were doing certain things. And in some cases, they felt it was a necessity to survive, to be able to perform. Let's talk about some of the specific posters that caught my eye. One of them, Connie's Hot Chocolates, which was kind of like a review, right?
Yes, it was a review, and I used this poster, the Connie's Hot Chocolate poster, to highlight black chorus girls, because in all of this, we have to remember black women play a very key part. The chorus girl gives black women a sense of empowerment and a sense of spotlight that they otherwise don't receive, and especially if we're talking about entertainment and talking about history. These chorus girls are able to explore sensuality and beauty in different ways. Again, we do have to talk about kind of the darker sides of things, which is like colorism in a lot of this. But all that to say that chorus girls represent a large part of black theater and then eventually black film.
Yeah, and I would think for people, black people at that time, there was this, as you said, a sense of pride of being, even seeing them featured on this poster as black women.
There are some posters where I want to buy some of the things that the black women are wearing on them because it's so beautiful. And I, decades later, am looking at these women and saying, this does feel like empowerment to me.
Yeah, and it was. Yes. I mean, whatever anyone's opinion, not knowing the full story, it was. The Flying Ace, that was a 1926 film,
yes,
right?
Yes, so The Flying Ace is a film by Richard Norman. Richard Norman is a white filmmaker. He had a studio in Jacksonville, Florida. I believe it's still the last surviving silent film studio in its original structure to remain today, so people can still visit that place. And he decides that he wants to dedicate his life to these race films, or dedicate his career, I should say, to these race films. And so The Flying Ace is the only film to exist in its entirety, so people can watch it on YouTube now. And it also shows black aspirations. So you have a black pilot, a black woman pilot, and a black male pilot. And it's actually a really fun movie. I watched it a couple of times and I was like, this ages very well. This ages well.
Harlem on the Prairie, which I absolutely love that title.
Yes, so Herbert Jeffries is a black cowboy, and he decides that he wants young black boys to see black cowboys, and then, of course, in turn, young black girls to see black cowgirls. And so we get Harlem on the Prairie, and Harlem is a stand-in a lot of cases, just to represent like this contemporary space, this metropolis. And so you'll see Harlem thrown into certain things sometimes, and I think it instills a sense of community. It kind of gathers the black audience together, because Harlem is recognizable. And even if we're
all over the world.
All over the world. And if you're seeing a Western movie, where does Harlem kind of factor into this? Well, it's because it's for an all black audience.
I was reading that back, you know, the backstory about the movie. I just laughed. I'm from Texas. That's one of the reasons I could relate to it. And also knowing what the history of cowboy is, I think this film makes perfectly good sense. What are you hoping people that come and see the exhibit and take a look at these wonderful pieces of history, what are you hoping they walk away with?
First, I want people to understand that this is a celebration. Of course, we have those dark-sided moments that we do have to get through, and that's history in general. There's always going to be this darkness that we have to get through, but the darkness tells a greater story about the celebration that is these all-black films for these all-black casts, or these all-colored reviews, as they would call them, all-colored reviews for an all-black audience. And so I want people to understand, especially black people, to understand that these things existed, and we might not have them all in their entirety in the way that they were recorded or not recorded at the time, but the posters help us live on. The posters help those stories live on. And if you walk into the exhibition and you feel empowered, or you feel a little bit sad, or you feel like you want to get on a horse and ride like Herbert Jeffries, I welcome all of those feelings, and I think we at Poster House welcome all of those feelings. It's just getting that message out there and understanding how posters have an important role in that.
Yeah, and not all, look, history can be ugly, but it does teach us something about ourselves.
Yes.
And I think, especially for black people in this country, it says a lot about, you know, we sing that song all the time, We Shall Overcome. That was their way of overcoming, being shut out of, you know, the larger culture in a lot of ways. They said, okay, this is what we're going to do for ourselves.
We will make our own stories, and we will showcase them, and we will get the best of the best talents. And a lot of these actors and stage performers have careers after these films, and they thrive in a lot of ways, and they live on in different mediums, or in films past that race film era, as we would call them.
And I think it would be important to remind anybody looking at them that try not to just view them through the prism of 2026.
Yes.
Because if you do, it may not make any sense.
Right.
You really need to think about when we're talking about and why. You know, these particular posters existed and these projects.
Yes, and that's why that theater section I think is so important, because it helps us establish this is the legacy of black music. This is the legacy of minstrelsy, of vaudeville, of the chorus girl, of Broadway. That's why I say it's literally and figuratively setting that stage, because we have to understand the time period that we're speaking about, and then we go into film, and I think that really is going to help people understand that celebration that I'm speaking about.
Okay. So I can send folks to posterhouse.org. That's the website. It's got the information about the exhibit. It opens March.
The exhibition, Act Black, Posters from Black American Stage and Screen, opens March 13th.
And runs through.
And it's on display until September. So there's a lot of time. When the weather gets warm, everyone should be out. And
well, even if it's cold, you're going to be inside.
Even if it's cold, yes, come on out. Come on out.
Oh, Esperanza, thank you so much. You can come back anytime.
Thank you so much for having me.
We'll be right back. This year marks the 50th anniversary of Ntozake Shange's powerful choreopoem for colored girls who have considered suicide when the rainbow is enough. To mark this milestone, Lincoln Center's American Songbook series is presenting a reimagined musical treatment of the classic that tells the stories of 7 women who've suffered the indignities of a racist and sexist society. Joining us today, composer, playwright, and performer, Natalie Brown.
Thank you for having me.
So nice to meet you.
Great to meet you too.
Natalie, I know when this poem, this choreopoem, first became popular, first was 1976, you were not only not born, you were not thought of.
Yes,
Okay.
correct, yeah.
So how did you become interested in this particular project?
Yeah, so for Colored Girls, as a theater maker, has always been one of those canonical pieces, especially as a Black theater maker and artist. And so I had known about it for a while, but I didn't end up reading it until my freshman year in college, when I was taking a composition class with Ntozake, and I had a copy of the choreopoem, and I'd never read it. And she asked us to just find any piece of text and set it to music. And something in me just went, oh, maybe there's something in here that I could use for this one assignment. And so I read the entire piece, and I was completely blown over by it. And I ended up taking No More Love Poems #4 and setting that to music for the class. And it just felt so kind of natural and easy. And when I brought it in to class, Janine was like, you should adapt the whole thing to music.
So, because it sounds like it spoke to you automatically.
Yes,
if you
completely.
could just, briefly tell our audience, I'll let you do that, what the choreopoem explores.
For sure. So for Colored Girls is an exploration of kind of everything that it means to be a Black woman in America. Obviously, Ntozake was writing it in the 1970s, but it's completely contemporary and makes sense today as well. So it's about some of the traumas and the horrors that these women face, but also about the joy in their lives, the laughter, the community, and how they're able to move through the world together.
Yeah, and I will tell you, it's one of my favorite pieces. For at least 2 years in college, I had that huge poster on my wall because it spoke to me, and I had a chance to even perform in the play in college, a theater group that I was a part of. I absolutely loved it because I did think that it really spoke to and about Black women.
Completely.
So how will your this performance differ from what we normally see on stage? Because we see, I'll just say, generally we see the women 7 different colors telling their stories. How will it work in your production?
So the original show is a series of poems that are all performed as spoken word pieces, and they're accompanied by choreography and by kind of interstitial music. What I've done is taken the original text and set everything to music, so it's now 2 acts instead of 1, and kind of woven through, like, different lines are taken to be reinserted to kind of have a kind of different feeling narrative through line, and then everything is sung, so that opened up a lot of possibilities in terms of harmonies and how are the women interacting differently with each other through kind of the power of music as well.
And this is a collaboration with visionary artist Ntozake. How does that work?
Yeah, so Janine was my professor in my freshman year at Yale and also in my junior year. And so she was the one who encouraged me to work on this piece in the first place, and then has just been an incredible mentor for me ever since. And so she helped me get in contact with the estate when I was first writing it, and I would kind of come to her with questions and, how do I put this on stage? She helped us do our first reading of it in the city. And so she has a visionary artist kind of residency at Lincoln Center. And so she's helping to kind of co-present the piece in public for the first time in collaboration with Clint Ramos, who's their artist in residence.
And what is it you're feeling that adding this music to these moving poems will do in terms of highlighting and conveying the meaning of this material to audiences? How do you think that will, help do that in a different way?
Yeah. So I think, obviously, music is able to bring out things that we always kind of say that in musical theater, when somebody can't speak anymore, they begin to sing, and then when they can't sing anymore, they begin to dance. And so there's kind of another layer of communication accessible because there's now music that's underlying all of these words. So maybe the melody that they're singing and the words that they're saying are communicating one thing, but the music underneath can communicate another thing that more kind of gets to the complexities of all of these poems, which are so completely layered and complicated and messy, like Black women are.
Very, very, very personal. And is there a certain type of music that you gravitated toward that you felt like was part of this piece, or are we going to be hearing, you know, different genres of music?
It's a lot of different genres, really rooted in Black musical traditions. So there's gospel, there's R&B, there's more like hip hop feeling, some pop, some like very musical theater. So kind of all over.
And what is your hope that audiences are going to take away from this particular performance of For Colored Girls?
I think what's really exciting about this piece is that for some audiences, they've grown up reciting these poems and living with them. And so I hope that maybe it's able to unlock something different for them, that they're able to have new realizations or understand things differently. And then also that for new audiences who maybe haven't interacted with this piece before ever, that they're able to kind of find a new way in and begin to unpack the incredible legacy that this piece has had.
Yeah, I mean, I can say, since I loved it since I was 17 or 18 years old, you know, my perspective and viewpoint certainly will be different now at my age than it was then. And I've seen performances of it, or reread it between, you know, now and then. But I do think it's really an interesting concept. And you know, music, it brings back feelings, emotions, and so I'm assuming that is what will happen with your audience as well.
Yes, I hope so, yeah.
Now this is April 6th in the Appel Room at Jazz at Lincoln Center.
Correct.
And look, you're 22, right?
Yes.
How excited are you about having this opportunity?
I am so excited. I mean, I started working on this piece when I was 18, so in some ways it's like, it feels like I've been living with it forever, but to get to debut it at Lincoln Center is just a dream come true. And we have the most amazing team, and we just started rehearsal, and they've been so just excited to get in the room and figure it all out. And so just getting to work with all of these professionals has been so wonderful.
We are so happy for you. And this is one night as part of the songbook series. Is it your hope that you will be able to perhaps build on this and we will see a longer, more full show later?
Yes, we would love to. This is a concert version, and so we're really focusing on presenting the music and the text, and then kind of hinting at the fact that this is a choreopoem, meaning that choreography is one of the most essential parts of the language of the piece. And so hopefully after this concert, we'll be able to fully develop what that looks like and bring it all to its feet.
Well, we will be keeping our fingers crossed for you, and
Thank
I
you.
will be in that audience. I can't wait to
Yay.
see and hear it. April 6th, the Appel Room at Jazz at Lincoln Center. Go to lincolncenter.org to take a look at ticketing. And nataliebrownmusic.com is your website, a little bit more about the things you've worked on in the past. And I got a feeling we're going to be seeing you a lot in the future.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, and best of luck to you.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
We'll be right back. A new Prime Video documentary, Meal Ticket, chronicles a basketball tradition, the McDonald's All-American Games, which showcases elite high school players. It's the same court where legends like Michael Jordan, Shaquille O'Neal, and Kobe Bryant, just to name a few, proved they got game.
I don't care what any player ever accomplishes. They could be a champion and a Hall of Famer, but when they talk about things that they accomplished in their basketball career, everybody's going to mention being a McDonald's High School All-American.
If I play my cards right, I'll be looking at my...
This really is my one way out. Without basketball, I wouldn't be where I am right now.
The #1 event to evaluate kids pre-draft is the McDonald's All-American Games.
If you shine in the McDonald's All-American Game, there was a path to the NBA.
Joining us now are the co-directors of Meal Ticket, Corey Colvin and Carlton Gerard Sabbs. Thank you both for joining us this afternoon.
Great pleasure to be here. Thanks for having us.
I'm going to put this question to both of you so you can answer either way you want. What led you to this project? I know you guys work as a team. Why was this a project that you wanted to work on?
Corey, you can go.
So, all right. So yeah, like you said, working as a team, Carlton and I started our production company in 2018. And, you know, we worked our way up doing commercials. Well, started music videos, commercials, editorial, and we got into short form. But then we had this amazing opportunity come our way to be considered to direct our first feature-length film. And as we learned more about it, we found out that it was about telling the history of the McDonald's All-American, which was amazing because when you think about how long the game's been going on, no one's ever told this story before. So when it came our way from some guys who mentor us by the name of Hootie and Chike, a director duo, we just got really excited about it, and we started production pretty much immediately.
Yeah, it's always nice to work on a project that gets you excited. Let me ask you, Carlton, are you a big basketball fan? So was this project right in your wheelhouse?
Absolutely. You know, I didn't play growing up because I wasn't that good in Chicago, but sports fanatic since I was a little kid, and I've always followed the game. Actually went to one in like 2011. So when the story came across our desk to give us the opportunity to actually, you know, film this and tell this 45 plus year story, I mean, it was a dream come true. Because it's a lot of pressure for one, so the challenge was exciting to take on. But then you just think about we were very confident in our voice as storytellers that we would be able to bring it, like to manage the integrity of the culture in it, shine some light on some people that maybe haven't and should be more, you know, put on a higher platform. And it's been a great opportunity. So it's been an amazing film.
Yeah, I think a lot of fans are going to be waiting to see this, excited to see this film. Let me ask you, Corey, the name, Meal Ticket.
Yeah, so when Carlton and I were talking about it, we had, we started to put our lists together, and it was just something when we landed on Meal Ticket, how it checked so many boxes, no pun intended, but it was like when you're growing up as a kid, you think about going to McDonald's and getting a Happy Meal, you know, or McDonald's and just ordering your favorite meal. And then it's like, you know, from us being music fans and like hip hop culture, there was always that term, like, you know, somebody's meal ticket, you know, a skill set, a gift that they have to be able to, you know, lack of a better word, hustle your way up out of a situation. And you know, when you think about it, that the side of these are kids who get to play in the game. These are 17, 18-year-old seniors in high school, and you know, this is their meal ticket. That's kind of like how we landed on that.
Yeah, no, I think it's quite apropos. Let me ask you, Carlton. You know, look, we mentioned some of the names: Kobe, Michael Jordan, Patrick Ewing, LeBron James, and you just mentioned a few minutes ago that there are some folks that you believe you highlight in your film that probably aren't getting the press, the credit maybe that they deserve. Talk to me a little bit about some of those stars that that we talk about, that we see talked about in the film, that you think deserve a little bit more of the spotlight than perhaps they're getting these days.
Oh, absolutely. You know, there's players that were legends in their time. Maybe you really haven't seen them in certain films, like, you know, Dominique Wilkins, Alonzo Mourning, you know, Chris Mullin. You know, these are nostalgic names and figures. But I think most importantly, the founder of the game is something that Corey and I discovered in the process of working on the film, where he was just a sports promoter out of DC that no one knew about, but he started this game. He first started off as the DC versus the World as the Capital City Classic, and then McDonald's catches wind. They come on as a sponsor, and then he finds out about this coach Morgan Wooten and the legendary John Wooden from UCLA. And he put them in the forefront, and they were basically the faces of the game, but behind the scenes, he was the founder. And for the game lasted beyond him, you know, it's 50 years now, and no one knows who he is. And Corey and I, as we worked on this story and bringing it to life, we were like, if anything comes out of this, if this guy gets, into the Naismith Basketball Hall of Fame, it would be an accomplishment.
Yeah, it sounds great, and it's wonderful to work on the project where you're actually shining a spotlight on something that most people, like you said, probably didn't even know. Can I ask you, Corey, are there any spectacular moment from the McDonald's All-American game that you highlight in your film that you can tell us about?
Yeah, it's actually a lot.
I know. So you got to pick one or two.
One or two, but like Carlton and I telling the story, it was something that we were met with. Like you said, the game's been going on for 50 years, and trying to condense all of that history down to where we are with the 95-minute runtime. But there's so many big moments. Like you have Michael Jordan, who was able to hit a game-winning shot before he actually did it when he made it at North Carolina in the championship. And then you have Shaquille O'Neal, like the Shaquille O'Neal coast-to-coast moment where people were just like, that was their first time seeing a big guy move the way that he moved up and down that court.
And there are so many wonderful moments when you're watching these players. And I think if both of you could just sum up for me why this game is still so important when it comes to basketball, and especially for these young players. I mean, look, these days, the word starts to get out early, on spectacular players. But why is this still such an important game for these youngsters?
I'll say it. For one, it's a rite of passage for these players still because of the legends that have been a part of it. And if you want to become a legend, this is the first mark in your career that you have to basically live up to the standards of Michael Jordan, LeBron James, Candace Parker, right? But also when you think of the numbers of it, right? It's 200,000 seniors in America, okay? And then it gets broken down to like 100 of them keep letters to become a McDonald's All-American. So they're saying, we're watching you for your senior year. And then that number gets broken down to 24. So out of 200,000, you're the final 24. And that it means it's the biggest stage. Everybody has done it. And I feel like kids personally still do it to this day because people they looked up to did it.
Yep, and it's still, you kind of know you got to be among the best of the best. I'm so excited for the two of you because I know it's a big project, one of your first full-length film. Meal Ticket is streaming exclusively now on Prime Video. It is definitely worth the watch. Carlton, Corey, thank you so much for joining us. Best of luck. I suspect we are going to see more of you too.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
And we'll be right back. Thank you for joining us on Here and Now. If you missed any portion of today's show, you can watch at abc7ny.com/hereandnow or listen to our podcast wherever you subscribe. If you'd like to comment or share your story, email us at hereandnow@wabc.com or follow us on Facebook and Instagram. I'm Sandra Bookman. Enjoy the rest of your day.